Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are well. It's a great pleasure to wish you welcome to Focus Group 6. How can energy modeling tools from Horizon 2020 projects contribute to national energy and climate plans? This is, as you know, this conference is a cooperation between the energy modeling projects in Horizon 2020 and the Commission. And this was one of the topics wanted by the Commission. This session is recorded. It will also be done a screenshot during this session. We want to have questions as usual. So please connect to Slido, slido.com, and use the code you see on your screen, hashtag EMPE_E2020. I hope you enjoy the session. And then if you go to the agenda for today, there are first meant to be 4 presentations about the national energy and climate plans. We are still missing one of the presenters, but we hope you will join soon. Then we will go through your questions related to the presentations. Each of these presentations are planned to be around 10 minutes. We will have a presentation of tools relevant for the plans. Each presentation will be around 1 minute, and then it will be possible to raise questions again related to the tools. So this is the agenda for this session. And then we will start with a presentation from the Commission from Clément Serre about national energy and climate plans. What are they? Why they need to be built on strong analytic foundation. So please, Clément, we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I think that it's a very relevant topic, and I've been asked to present what the national energy and climate plans are, and why we need a strong modeling for that. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you allow me, I would like to also open maybe for a discussion. I think we have a few minutes to see a bit what the future looks like also from that point of view. So simply to explain a bit how it all started, I think the numbers which are on this slide you can just ignore because they are a bit outdated. As you see in the communication from 2014 already, we had this idea that okay, we have to be ambitious for greenhouse gas reduction, and for that we need among other things an ambitious target for renewables and an EU target. But that being said, it would not be binding for member states individually, so we would not have nationally binding renewable target, and this is where the need for a strong governance framework emerged. How to make sure that we achieve our EU level objective without having national targets. Of course, the Council supported very much the principle of having some flexibility and a bit of administrative streamlining. And I think another element important here in the Energy Council of November 2015 is this idea of coordination and cooperation. So regional cooperation is an important element of the governance. And of course, to cooperate with someone, you have to trust him. And I think in that perspective, as regards trust, it's also very important to have a robust analytical basis and a robust modeling framework to be able to have like a neutralized conversation and conversation with partners that you can trust. So the overarching objectives of this governance, I think they are all equally important, but here for the topic that is of interest to us today, I would like to insist more maybe a bit on two. So of course the main objective is that we meet our energy union objectives, notably the 2030 targets, but also having in mind the 2050 perspective. And I think another element which I would like to emphasize is to enhance investor certainty and predictability. And here again, I think modeling is key because, of course, it's relatively easy to have a political target or political objective, but I think once the investors see that it's actually backed by a serious and robust modeling, I think from that moment they can trust that the objective is indeed attainable, it's feasible, and then they can prepare how they can contribute, how much they can invest, and of course this has a very direct impact on things like the interest rate. And we know that in sectors like energy efficiency or renewable energy, which are very capital intensive, having a small decrease in the interest rate can play a big role in the final cost of the energy transition. So I think again here modeling is a very important aspect of the governance process. To explain briefly how it works, at the core of the governance, we have the National Energy and Climate Plans, NECPs. The first are covering the period, the next decade, basically from 2021 to 2030. So 2030 objective is the final horizon. And then along the decade, we will have national progress reports and monitoring by the European Commission. So these NECPs themselves were, we had two steps. We had the draft National Energy and Climate Plans end of 2018. We provided, we assessed them. When I say we, the Commission, we provided an assessment and we provided recommendations. Again, if you remember the origin of the whole governance process, it's to make sure one of the most important objectives of this recommendation is to make sure that we achieve our collective objectives for 2030. So we need to make sure that the national contributions, notably for renewables, energy efficiency, and greenhouse gas emissions, but there are more dimensions than that, that the national contributions allow us to reach our objectives. So we made recommendations on the draft plans, and we received the final plans at the end of 2019 or early 2020, actually, for the last ones. And now we are about to publish our final our assessment of these final plans. So in a few days. And in the governance regulation, we have this this annex, which is the template that the member state need to follow for their plans. So basically, we have two parts, two sections. The first section is what we could call a more political section, so the national plan. And the other section is the analytical basis. So you see that half of the National Energy and Climate Plan is basically the analytical basis, which illustrates, I think, the importance of this aspect. And for each of these sections, it's divided in five energy union dimensions. So the first one being decarbonization. So this includes renewable, but also greenhouse gas emission reductions, and energy efficiency, energy security, internal market, and research, innovation, and competitiveness. So here you see a bit the structure of the plan. You have national objectives and targets, followed by policies and measures. So of course, the policies and measures, we need to make sure that they allow the member state to achieve its targets. And the analytical part, it's on the one hand a description of the current situation and projections. So projections to the horizon of 2030, but also at least until 2040. and then an assessment, an impact assessment of the policies and measures that the member state put forward in its plans. What are the impacts of these policies and measures in terms not only of the energy system, of course, but greenhouse gas emission reductions, but also macroeconomic impact on GDP, employment, social impacts, environmental impacts, for instance, on air quality, the needs in terms of upskilling and reskilling. So quite an encompassing impact assessment that we have asked member states to do. So that was the 2030 framework until some days ago, but as you know, now we have a climate law which enshrines the objective of the EU being climate neutral by 2050 into law. And for that, basically we realized that we need to have a more ambitious step milestone by 2030. So this is where the climate target plan comes in, and we have now the economy-wide GHG target of at least minus 55% by 2030. I will pass quickly because time is flying, but very quickly on what we see in the NECPs, so the final NECPs. For renewable energy, we achieve our target because we would reach between 33.1 and 33.7% of renewable energy in final gross energy consumption by 2030. So this is above our target, but for energy efficiency, we still have a gap. So when you add up all the contributions by member states, you still see that there is a gap between around 3%, 3 percentage points for both primary and final energy consumption. So basically now that we have a more ambitious target for 2030, so just as a reminder, the target used to be minus 40% of GHG emissions. Now it's minus 55. So of course that implies that we need to go further for both renewable energy and energy efficiency. So for instance, energy efficiency, we would need to decrease by between 36 and 41%, depending if you are talking about final energy consumption or primary. And for renewable, we would need to increase to between 38 to 40% renewables.
Yes, only 1 minute left, please.
1 minute left, thank you. So that leaves me enough time, I think, I guess the main message here is that there will be needs, member state may need to update their NECP, possibly rather soon. So that implies, of course, needs in terms of modeling and analytical basis, because we need to know where we are going. And this is also true to assess the investment needs, because being that ambitious requires huge investments. You can see here the blue is basically the baseline, the blue bar. The light pink is the current 2030 objective, and the green pink is if we go to minus 55%. And if you basically the difference between the two, the pink bar is plus 260 billion euros per year, and the green bar, that would increase to around 350 billion euros per year compared to the baseline. So the investment needs are significant, and you know that we have now the recovery funds which are available, in particular the Recovery and Resilience Facility, and we have a lot of funding available, and member states are to prepare recovery plans, including an estimation of their investment needs to achieve the green transition, to implement the clean energy transition. And this is why I think there are strong and urgent needs for precise modeling and for good estimation of the investment needs to achieve our targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clement, for this interesting presentation about what are the national energy and climate plans, how are they structured, the need for a modeling approach, etc. So thank you very much. We will then continue with the presentations from 2 member states and a region. I'm very happy to welcome the Deputy Minister of Energy from Bulgaria. Please, Sheko Stanko, we are happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to participate in this webinar. I hope it will be useful for all participants. And of course, it would help also ourselves to understand the missing points. Thanks to the colleague from the Commission for the good presentation, and the future which is coming with the new targets. It will be challenging, but also opportunity for each of the member states. From my side, maybe a few words at the beginning. Maybe for the people which are following the whole process related with the clean energy package, could know that me personally was the leader of the trialogues negotiations for the Energy Efficiency Directive, Renewables Directive, and Governance Regulation. It was really a challenging time for negotiating with the colleagues from the Parliament. And now all this which was presented from the colleague from the European Commission became alive, and we have the second version ready, and let's say waiting for some additional remarks or from the side of the Commission. But how it looks like in our eyes in Bulgaria, we prepare and sent at the beginning of 2019 the first draft of the NECP. There were about 10 recommendations, and we tried in the final version, which we sent at the beginning of this year to the Commission to solve all the issues. Actually, the main topics related with the 5 pillars of the plan, we are committed from our side related with renewables energy. We increase related with the draft NECP the renewables target from 25 to 27%. Of course, we touched also the 3 trajectories related with heating, cooling, renewables in the electricity and transport. There, our targets will be about 42% for renewables in heating, cooling, 32% in electricity, and a little bit more than 14% in the transport. We hope that we contribute enough to reaching the overall European target, and how you already saw in the presentation from the Mr. Sarah, is good to say that we overachieved at the moment the existing target. Of course, in the energy efficiency, in the primary and final energy consumption, we managed to be committed for 27% in the primary, and about 30, a little bit less than 32 in the final energy consumption. In the topic related with the security of energy supply, we were very detailed with the whole opportunities, diversification of the energy supply, which is a very important topic on our territory. We all remember 2009 and the problems with delivering gas during the winter in our region. We and our colleagues from Slovakia were the big losers. That's why we put accent in our plan of diversification of gas supply, and of course using our resources like wind, sun as opportunity for producing electricity from PVs, and of course, last but not least, the existing infrastructure coming and produced electricity from the thermal power plants coming from coal. Of course, with decreasing importance and production from these facilities in the future. What is also important to mention is the liberalization process related with the energy market in Bulgaria, which is ongoing process, which actually from the 1st of October, just a week ago, we make the second step after the first step, sending all the big enterprises which are on the medium and high voltage grid to the free market with establishing energy exchange. Also, after 1st of October, all the medium and small enterprises, doesn't matter if it's on the low voltage grid or the medium and high voltage grid, should participate and buy their energy, or their energy should be delivered by the free market prices. I'm explaining these things a little bit faster than planned from my side, but here I want to push a special accent on this, that nobody believed that so far we negotiated the governance regulation, that some troubles like COVID-19 will come on us as member states and let's say European citizen. My personal opinion at the moment is that in the near future, even before 2023, we should intervene in these plans, as the colleague already mentioned. Even just 2 days ago, the colleagues in the European Parliament voted not for 45 decrease of greenhouse gas emissions until 2030. They voted for 60% decrease. Of course, it's up to the final trialogues what will be the final target until 2030. Of course, one is sure, in our energy and climate plan at the moment, the decrease of greenhouse gas emissions and the target we see that is possible to reach with the existing targets at the moment is 49% decrease of the greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, that's our calculation, and our model calculated this before speaking for new targets, for new future targets in the energy efficiency, renewables, and of course, it seems reasonable that the ETS will be also open and renegotiated between the member states. But here, one should to be clear that it has to think about all member states and keeping the competitiveness of the economy of the whole regions, because Bulgaria, for example, is very dangerous by carbon leakage. Why? Because 3 from our 5 neighbors are not European member states, which means that industries like cement industry, steel industry, and fertilizers could easily move a few hundred kilometers away from the territory of Bulgaria to North Macedonia, Serbia, and Turkey without thinking about the restriction of the environment or environment restriction or the ETS scheme. We are keeping this in mind, and we are not stopping repeating this loudly in front of our colleagues and partners from the European Commission and the other member states, and we hope that they gonna understand and they gonna develop in the future the new draft documents which will include our proposal. Of course, which is very important here, at the draft energy and climate plans, it wasn't possible to include a very important funds like Recovery and Resilience Fund and Just Transition Fund, which are part of JTF was one of the first published document part of the Green Deal, and of course, Recovery and Resilience Fund is helping the member states going out from the COVID crisis. These 2 financial instruments will help us a lot for economic transformation. One should to be clear related with the JTF. After making the assessment from the green transition in Bulgaria, we recognize something. We have 3 core regions which will be heavily impacted by the green transition, but we have also the regions in which we have the big industry, energy intensive industry, carbon intensive industry, which will also, sorry, from the cabinet of the minister, just a second. Sorry. And from our personal opinion is that the money coming from the JTF, from the economic transition, and should be not just focused on the core regions, but also in the regions which are heavily impacted, where the industry will be heavily impacted, with the idea to keep the competitiveness in these regions and to keep the industry in these regions. Of course, for recovery and resilience plans, we are also very glad to see the topics and the opportunities for future projects which could contribute to the reaching the final targets. And so here we are speaking that 37% from this money should be used for green projects and 20% for digitalization. Both topics are very important for us, because the digitalization in the energy sector will help a lot of the transition and integration of renewables and modern energy efficiency monitoring infrastructure. And of course, the green projects at all will contribute, of course, again, I repeat myself, but to let's say, to fulfill our existing and, of course, future targets for renewables and energy efficiency.
Please end within 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will focus myself in the very last minute in the energy efficiency. We are planning at the moment with approving our energy efficiency strategy, concentrating ourselves of establishing a decarbonization fund, which will help the private sector, the public sector, and of course medium small enterprises for making future investment in energy efficiency. And the best energy we have is the not used energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, and thank you for taking your time. I hope you can still join us to the part with the questions after the 2 next presentations. There are now 86 persons. Did you?
Sorry interrupting you.
Yeah?
I should leave because the call I received from my minister was that we should move to the Council of Ministers by the Deputy Prime Minister meeting. If there are some questions, if it's possible to answer now and to leave.
Yes. Is it possible to have, are there any questions on the Slido? We could ask Mr. Stanko now.
There are no questions now.
Okay, then everything was clear. So thank you very much, Mr. Stanko, and have a nice day. So then we will continue this session with a presentation from Spain. And we are very happy to have with us Miriam Bueno Lorenzo, Deputy Director General of Prospective Strategy and Regulation on Energy, Ministry of Ecological Transition and the Democratic Challenge in Spain. So, Miriam, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ingeborg, for introducing me, and thank you all the EMP modeling platform for inviting me to this interesting session. I am going to present the Spanish National Energy and Climate Plan for 2021 to 2030. And I would like to explain a little bit, but that my presentation is very focused on the modeling, given that Clement has explained the context of the National Energy and Climate Plan. So I would like to start by setting up which are the Spain's objectives for 2030. That is the decade the decade where the Spanish National Energy and Climate Plan is going to be implemented. So the target that we set is a reduction of 23% of greenhouse gas emissions with respect to 1990. In regarding with the renewable energy penetration over the final energy consumption, we set a target of 42%, and in terms of energy efficiency, an increase of 39.5% with respect with the reference scenario that was set by the European Commission several years ago. We have this decrease. So I would like to explain also that this target for 2030 is a milestone in the way to the climate neutrality that we are planning to achieve in 2050. So in 2050, at least the target is at least 90% of the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions with respect to 1990. And we have another intermediate milestone in 2040 in line with both the NECP and also the climate neutrality. So to conclude that, this climate neutrality that is translated into this reduction of 90% of greenhouse gas emission that will be compensated by the sinks for emissions will be together with renewable energy, 100 renewable energy power sector by this year. So I would like also to mention that this target, these objectives, and the elaboration of the National Energy and Climate Plan is for us at this moment in time where we are designing the resilience and recovery plans that are related to the resilience and recovery facility. All the policies and measures that we set in this National Energy and Climate Plan are the guideline for us to design the RRF plan. So this plan is the exercise of doing the National Energy and Climate Plan was very useful in this moment. I would like to also mention that these objectives are, if you can remember, the objectives for the European Union that Clement mentioned at the beginning are very in line with the European Union, and we think that Spain is making a big contribution to achieve this carbon neutrality in 2050 and to achieve all the targets set at the European level. So I'm not going to mention this because Clement has mentioned before and explained which is the structure of the NECP. So I will start to mention which are the different models that we have to. When we started this exercise that is new for all the member states, and I think that this is one of the main challenges. We have to select one model between all the big portfolio model that I think that all the public that is here in this conference will know, because I guess that the most of the people that is in this conference is entirely dedicated to modeling. So we have to select this model that finally was Markle Times. And I would like to also mention that the training needs in this case is some months. So one of the big challenges for us was to be trained in the use of these energy models. Apart from that, related with the model, in the last slide, I was mentioning the Times model that you can find in the left side of the slide in the center. With this model, we plan which are all the needs in reference with the energy sector. But this model was also soft linked with many other models. So I will try to explain this slide by saying that the results of the power system, as this Times-Sinergia model has a big granularity, we only use 14 tiny slices. We need to have a dedicated model for the power system in order to take all the data for power system capacity and also demand, and use a model of economic dispatch for this power system. And we use two different models. One that was managed for the TSO of the energy system, Red Eléctrica de España, and the other that was developed by the University of Comillas. With this power system model, we check that we don't need any backup needs. We check also the exchange in the interconnection, and in summary, that we don't have any security or supply issues for the results of this model, as given that we are reaching a really big share of renewable energies in the power system. Apart from that, we use another model to project all the greenhouse gas emission and other pollutant gases emission projection. And for this, we introduce the results of the model M3E that is in the center of the slide that provide us all the emissions that are not related to the energy sector. Apart from that, and following the methodology used in the Spanish inventory system, we have all the greenhouse gas emissions and pollutant gases emissions projections for the whole Spanish system. And after that, we use both the results of the energy sector and the results of the gases emissions to analyze both the economic impact with an input-output model developed by the European Commission that is based on Fidelio, and which name is Denio, and was developed by research center in Spain, the BC3, and also included the health impacts by using a model TM5FAST that employed, which are the main pollutant concentration in a geographical dimension for Spain. So coming back to the energy model, Times-Sinergia, we use this Times model that was developed by the International Energy Agency, and it's a bottom-up model. I think that is very well known this model, and this model calculates all the energy needed to cover the long-term demand, but by optimizing the cost of the energy system, given some assumptions that I will mention later. For setting up the model, I would like to explain a little bit the model data structure. So we set a base year reference in 2016 in this structure with from this base year that when we need to collect several data from very different stakeholders, and also made an analysis of the coherence of the data. That I think that is one of the big challenges. Coming from that, we did all the demand projections with both the economic assumptions provided by the European Commission and also internal data that we have. And we applied several scenarios and constraints and the evolution of the technologies for the future. The input data for Times-Sinergia covers all the sectors, the industry, residential, commercial and public, transport and mobility, all the sector related to energy, that is power sector and the fuels. And I would like to mention that the model needs a great amount of data. We also have to introduce all the main policies and measures that we have to put in place to achieve the target that we set to achieve this climate neutrality in 2050. And I would like to finish to mention, to summarize a little bit, which were our main modeling challenges. First of all, the model selection, also to collect all the data with all these several stakeholders and to give this data coherence. I would like to take advantage of this occasion to say that we also use this exercise to improve our energy statistics and all the statistics in Spain. And also, other of the challenge is to define which is the granularity of the model, to define the base year and all the model characteristics. The introduction of hypotheses, that is the transition of policies and measures into the model, it was other of the main challenges. And also setting up the scenarios, because in the exercise that was planned by the European Commission, we need both a reference and objective scenario, and also to achieve all these targets. So this is an iterative project with many models involved. So for the part of the modeling, I would like to conclude that the modeling of the energy system depends a lot on the exercise and analysis proposed. And in addition to modeling, I think that the process must be put in place to involve all the actors, all the stakeholders involved in the energy system. And to finish this presentation, I would like to summarize which are the results of the National Energy and Climate Plan. As I have mentioned before, it's a reduction of 23% of the greenhouse gas emission versus 1919, 42% of renewable energy over final energy demand, 39.5% of energy efficiency improvement, and also 74% of renewable energy in the power sector. And our main objective is to achieve the carbon neutrality in 2050. And about the macroeconomic impacts of the energy of the national energy and climate plans that were very positive for Spain and that are also the basis for designing the recovery and resilience plan. The total investment is 241,000 million euros between in the decade, and also the energy imports of fossil fuels that were saving by the introduction of renewable energy were calculated in our plan and amount 67,000 millions in between 2021 and 2030. Also, the GDP experienced an increasement of about 2%, and we experienced an increment in employment and a reduction of premature deaths. Thank you for the presentation, and if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them later.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miriam. As you said, there are a lot of energy modelers in the audience, so this is a very interesting presentation for us. So then the fourth and the last presentation from this part of this session is energy planning in the region Piemonte in Italy. And Silvio De Nigris, a public officer at the Sustainable Energy Sector in Piemonte, will give this presentation. So Silvio, we are looking forward to what you have to say to us today. We can't hear you. No?
Okay, I think now it's working.
Yes,
and
fine.
I guess also for my screen or not. Can you see the screen? Can you confirm just?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, good. So I will start and with just a brief introduction of the region, and then I will go through our energy planning activities. So I'm representing the region of Piemonte, which is settled in the northwest part of Italy. It's about 4.5 million of inhabitants, with the capital city of Torino with less than 1 million of inhabitants. So the region is one of the most important regions in terms of economic power in Italy, and our economic is based on mechanical industry and agro-food industry as well, and also we have quite a large share of our GDP concentrated in service and commerce. So we are close to the border of France with 43% of our territory, which is mountain, and we have a very fragmented administrative situation with more than 1,000 municipalities and 8 provinces. Okay, here presented just a picture of the energy system of the region. I will not go into detail of that, but just want to point out some important information just to pick up some peculiarities of our region. So we can see that most of our primary energy is based on import, and we have just internal production of renewables, and I would say solar and biomass and hydropower, as we don't have wind, for example. And then what is also very important is that our energy system is mainly based on natural gas, which is used directly in the final sectors, but also a very large part of it is used in transformation sector for the production of electricity I'm sorry, I lost my presentation. Okay, electricity and we have quite a large district heating network in the city of Torino. So if we move to final energy consumption, here again just a few pictures about the sectors where it is quite evident that we are still quite dependent on fossil fuels, even though renewables are starting to play a big role also. And if we have a look at what is happening in the last few years, we should say that not much is happening, since we are facing a period where the energy consumption are quite stable and more than 10 millions of oil equivalent. As I said, a big share is on natural gas, but also we have still quite a large amount of oil products used mainly in the transport sector, of course. And what about renewables? Renewables are increasing, but not that much. And nowadays we are in the 18% of the final energy consumption is a share of renewables, which are quite equally divided into electricity and thermal use of renewables. So that's what happened in the last years, and we have some targets which have been fixed in energy plans that's been endorsed by the executive board of the region, which fixed some targets, preliminary targets for 2020 and 2030. As you can see, the trend are in line, but not that much. We should speed up a little bit in this sense to reach the targets. And these targets, I have to say, have to be revised according to the new EU strategy that has been presented today and previously, and also according to the national energy plan. So we are doing some of assessment and data collection activities, mainly in the framework of this Interreg Central Europe project, Prospect 2030, which I will just mention later on. And I want to tell you that we are committed in the data collection activity in statistical, publishing some statistic data of our region since a few years. And as I said, we have a very large amount of municipalities, and we are supporting them in their local energy planning, mainly in the framework of the Covenant of Nature initiative, but also other related initiatives. I think this is very important. Just try to collect and act as energy observatory to get all the information on board and provide them to the municipalities which face some lack of technical expertise, and so we are trying to support them in this process. I just want to go to the end of my presentation, just show you some very interesting information related to what happened this year. Of course, here I compared data coming from petrol sales in this year, which is the red line, compared with the previous 3 years. And here you can very clearly see the impact of the lockdown during the springtime. This is for petrol. This is also for diesel. The situation is pretty similar, even though I have to say for petrol we reached in some of the same values of the former years, but this is not the case for diesel. There is a modal shift from one fuel to the other, and also I think we lack some freight transportation still as it was before. And also we can show you some interesting diagram also on the same situation related to electricity. So this is a diagram in which the peak loads, the daily peak load are provided. So the blue line is 2020, the red line is 2019, and the green ones is the is the difference between them. So here it is again very evident that during lockdown, which is here starting March, April, and so on, so the situation was dramatically, the consumption dramatically decreased, and also the curve is more flat than in the previous year. So it means that all these peaks for me are mainly industry activities that were almost closed during this spring. So this is very interesting also for in the view of making a new forecast for the future. Of course, this year happened something very peculiar that we have to take into account when we think about revising the targets for the future. Okay, so we are doing these activities, as I said, in the framework of this Interreg project, where 7 regions across across Central Europe are joining together, working together to draft a sustainable energy action plan, and also providing some training and mutual learning activities in order to spread out the achievement of the project. And okay, if you don't know what to do on the 14th of October, you can join this this talk organized in the European Week of Regions and Cities, where we are going to discuss a little bit about carbon neutrality for region. And okay, thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation and the invitation to the webinar. And also thank you for being on time. So we have 8 minutes for questions. So I hope the audience has been active and posted questions on Slido. Okay, so the top question, based on your modeling experiences with the national energy and climate plans, how likely do you consider the possibility that an NCEP could be built exclusively based on open source data? So I suppose this is a question to Miriam then.
Okay, thank you, Ingeborg. Thank you for the question. I think that this is, of course, this is a possibility of using open source data for that. I think that this is possible when we assess all the models that we can use for doing this exercise of the National Energy and Climate Plan. We use Times-Sinergia mainly because there was a public research institution of Spain that has already done a model that, so for us was a really good and nice start. But I think that this is a possibility, of course.
Okay, that's interesting. So also addressed to Miriam, what are the modeling developments expected to downscale NCEPs into regional local plans? Have you considered linkages with other model tools? It seems that it's something more there that I don't see. But okay, maybe the or the question is there. Pardon?
Okay. It's just thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so I recognize also the person that made the question. Of course, we think that now, related with the national energy and climate plans, we are aware that a lot of regions in Spain are also developing their plans. So we are widely open to share all the information that they need and to have a confluence between all the results at the national level and also the disaggregated of the regional national energy plans. And of course, we already consider linkage with other modeling tools, and we are advancing in the assessment of which many other modeling tools that we can use to go improving our modeling. Thank you.
Thank you. And then it's a question from Gabriel. What about the period 2030 to 2050 and updates of national plans for meeting climate neutrality ambitions? Any possible time frame for this? Thanks.
I guess I can try to answer.
Yeah. Yes, you are a bit far away, Clément.
Maybe I need to speak in the mic.
That's better.
The very good news for Gabriel is that the NECPs is a never-ending process. So we will have lots of other plans. So one plan covers a decade. So the first one goes until 2030, and then we should have the same process again for the following decade from 2030 to 2040, and etc. So yeah, normally we should have again end of 2028 a draft plan, end of 2029 a final plan, taking into account Commission recommendation. Then this would cover the following decade. And as far as modeling is concerned, then the next plans, end of the next decade, should cover the period until 2050. So then, at least in terms of modeling, we should cover the period until 2050. But I would like, sorry, my presentation was a bit fast because I wanted to say a lot, but maybe that was too fast. I think it's important to keep in mind also that there should be, or the member state can update their plans already in the middle of the next decade. So provide a draft NECP draft update by the end of 2023, and then a final update by the end of 2024. And this does not exclude the possibility to have an even earlier update, also having in mind the new ambition that we have at the EU level. So with this new ambition, of course, the member state may realize that they need to also increase their own ambition at national level. And therefore submit an updated plan. So I'm sure there will be plenty of plans in the next years.
Yes, it seems like that.
Ingeborg, I don't know if I can add something to the question because they ask about the period 2030 to 2050, and I would like to mention also that we have the obligation of doing a long-term strategy that covers the whole period from 2021 to 2050. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So then we have, this will be the last question because we also need time for presentation of the tools. So Hannah has asked which methods for carbon border adjustment are currently discussed in the Commission as potential viable options. So Clément, could you respond to this question? Or
yeah, so carbon adjustment mechanisms is indeed being discussed. It's a complex exercise because of course we have we are bound with trade regulation. So when it comes to the very specific tools at our disposal, I'm afraid I won't be able to answer because this is being dealt with mostly in other directorate generals, DG Trade, notably. So I won't be able to tell you what exactly are the options privileged at this stage for implementing carbon border adjustment mechanism. But I think it's definitely on the table, and now they are looking at exactly how we can make this compatible with trade rules.
okay. Thank you very much. We are going to presentation of possible tools or tools that could be used for development and assessment of national energy and climate plans. If you want to stay, of course, that's you are very much welcome to do that. But if you want to leave, I say thank you so much for your contribution. So then there will be a session of around 15 minutes with presentation of relevant tools for national energy and climate plans. And the presentations of the tools are also available on B2Match in the session description. So if it goes too fast now, you have the possibility of looking at the presentations afterwards. So we start with the energy system model, Genesis mod. So please, Carlo, you have 1 minute.
Yes, so hello everybody, my name is Carlo. I'm going to present you our global energy system model Genesis mod, which also is being used in the Open Entrance project and was developed by us at Technical University of Berlin. Generally, Genesis mod is a linear and techno-economic framework where also basically lies the huge strength of Genesis mod is that it's very flexible. It's just a framework where the user, depending on its input that is being put into the model, can determine what the subject of analysis will be. It includes the sector electricity, industry, buildings, and transportation. The regional focus is very flexible again. It can be used, or it was also used for analysis on a global scale, but also country studies or multi-regional studies are possible. And another very good feature of Genesis mod is that it makes it very easy to compare results from different scenarios which are being used. So in the case of using or trying to implement NECPs, it makes it very easy to show or to analyze how different measures would have different impacts on the energy system. Right, so if you go to the next slide, there's just a couple of case studies which already have been conducted, which mostly focus on different regional areas, but also have other features included, like, for example, the effect of short-sightedness of policy action in the discussion of stranded assets. And with that, yeah, I would like to finish. There's some information on the last slide where you can find more information or contact us. And with that, I'm happy to pass over to the next presenter.
Thank you very much, Carlo. We just go on with the multi-carrier market design tool. So please, Anna.
So I'm going to present a tool that we developed within the scope of a magnitude project. And therein we looked really in the market aspects of the sector coupling. So if you go to the next slide, then so this is just a scheme of the tool that we developed. What we try to achieve is really to look into how we can support this, the sector coupling in a market-based way, because all the energy sectors are really operated in a market way. And currently it is unclear what is a good market-based coordination for our energy system to reach the climate ambitions. And therefore we developed this tool. So if you go on the next slide, we developed it in Julia and Python. So what this tool can be used for is we can evaluate different multi-carrier market designs, and we evaluate them in terms of economic efficiency or operational integration of renewable energy sources. And then this we expect can help European Commission and regulators and market operators to make an educated decision about what should be the market adaptations, so that we really reach this better sector integration and we really leverage on additional flexibility for instance, gas sector to the electricity sector. Next to that, previous slide, I'm not done yet. This tool can also help evaluate different market profits per technology, and that can be then used for investors, for instance. They can already calculate what is their expected profit, and they can help them then maybe be more brave to invest in technologies that can also mitigate climate change. So in conclusion, our tool should be able to help the policy and decision makers in achieving a proper market-based coordination of the energy system.
Thank you
So
very
with that, I
much.
would like to give the word over to the next presenter.
Yes, thank you very much, Anna. And then it's planned for EU. Sandrine, please.
Okay, so thank you very much. The plan for EU model, it's being implemented within the H2020 funded Plan for RES project. What it is doing, it's a model that is composed of 3 different layers that are all embedded. The first one is the unit commitment, which computes optimal schedules and marginal costs. Then we have a seasonal storage valuation, which uses the unit commitment as a valuation solver. The seasonal storage valuation will compute the water values and the strategies for all the storages. And then above that, we have a capacity expansion model, which computes a generation mix for generation storage and also line capacities, extension of lines for only 1 year. So it's focused on electricity only and can be adapted to very different kinds of geographical systems. So we can have a whole Europe or small part of Europe or one country with the exchanges with the borders, or a region inside the country. So what has it been used and is used from now? We are doing some different kinds of studies within the project, like evaluating what the impact of different level of renewable integration have on the costs, or evaluating the value of flexibility, which is the system cost reduction from using flexibility potentials. Or also we're trying to evaluate the impact of climate change, because all this is stochastic and we are relying on different climatic scenarios from the Copernicus Climate Change Service that was presented yesterday. So the main use of this model from our point of view is to assess the feasibility and the cost of long-term scenarios coming from the Genesis model that Carlo just presented. So any questions we have website and everything. So I will now leave the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Sandrine. Andreas from Comillas will present Open Tapas. Hello, Andreas. Are you there?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to present, I'm Andrew Ramos, I belong to Comillas University. I'm going to present the Open Tapas. The idea behind this model is try to introduce transparency and simplicity in power system planning. Next slide. The model has been conceived as a generation and transmission expansion planning model, with at the same time being able to represent the unit commitment or the operating details of the system. It has been set up as an optimization model where we are able to deal with, let's say, any kind of detail in the operation, especially on the operation of storage or flexible facilities at the operational level. So on one hand, that model was an evolution of the previous one, the TEPES one that was coded in GAMS and was, let's say, property model. And however, we have extracted some part of this model in order to create the Open TEPES model. Next slide, please. The previous model was used in different, was developed under different H2020 project, European projects model, where we were mainly focusing on trying to analyze which is the impact at the transmission level of different scenarios, long-term scenarios. On the one hand, derived from the, let's say, generation expansion, and then we were addressing the impact on the transmission network. And we were cooperating in different projects, in different European project models in order to do that. Nowadays, we are planning, or we are using this model more to evaluate or to assess the different kind of storage systems, for example, pumped storage hydro or batteries at operational level, and try to compare both in the medium or long term. And that is all from my side. In the next slide, you can see that the model is freely available on different sites, and you can download it and use for your own purposes. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. So then we will turn to some local models, Fresh and Gusto. So please, Sebastian, we are looking forward to the presentation of those tools.
Thank you, Ingeborg, for the introduction. I will present the two open source models, FreshCom and Gusto. Both models focus on local energy systems. For example, urban neighborhoods or local energy communities, and we see an important role for urban neighborhoods to map or even break down national energy plans on neighborhood level. Next slide, please. First, FreshCom, which is a linear optimization model with the objective function to maximize the social welfare of a local energy community. On the left-hand side in the figure, you see two strengths of the models. One is the allocation mechanism, which means peer-to-peer trading under different willingness to pay from the consumers and prosumers. And in orange, you see the second, or one of the strengths, which means the dynamic participation of new members inside of the energy community. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is about FreshCom, and the second model is Gusto, which is a tool, an open source tool for the optimal energy technology portfolio and technology dispatch on neighborhood level, which minimizes the total annual costs of energy supply in multiple energy carrier systems. Furthermore, different operation strategies are also possible for small-scale batteries, for example, inside of the neighborhood or inside of the buildings, which means, for instance, profit maximization, but also the minimization of local excess or deficit by the prosumers. And the model can be used to get insights of the trade-offs between local distributed renewable generation and supply from outside the community, and also find synergies or the competitive between the distribution grids and local energy storage systems. On the next slide, please get in contact with us via email or check the GitHub repository, where you can find the existing versions of the modeling framework, but also future developed new functionalities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. And then we are going to hear about the macroeconomic models. So please, Hetty, you will present Eximod. No.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, I'm here to present Eximod. Eximod is not an energy model, but it's a macroeconomic model, in the sense that it will calculate the economic and environmental effect of, for example, changes in the energy mix due to the energy transition. So one of the examples is that well, if, for example, changes in the energy mix occur, it does not just affect those sectors, the energy sectors. It also affects all those sectors that make use of the energy sector. And what this model does, it calculates how this change in one sector basically waves through the rest of the economy. So one of the strengths of this model is that it has quite an elaborate underlying database, which is called Exiobase. The model allows to, in a flexible way, deal with this database. So if, for example, a certain nation would like to only look at its own nation and aggregate the rest of the world, such that the rest of the world is all in one region, that's a possibility. Or, for example, if you would like to take a look at all countries in Europe as separate nations and then aggregate the rest of the world, that's also possible. So it's quite a flexible model. It's also flexible in the sense that it allows you to make choices in equations. So consumer behavior you can model in different ways, and it's flexible in that sense. So what kind of output can you expect from this model? Still previous slide, please. It's, for example, employment effect, output, output per sector, household consumption, etc. So now next slide, please. Thank you. Examples of where we use this model is, for example, for the European Commission, where we looked at what is the effect of fuel efficiency measures in heavy-duty vehicles. How does that impact not just that specific sector, but also, for example, the transport sector that will have higher cost of purchasing those vehicles, but might have lower fuel costs because of those measures. Also, on the circular economy topic, we did some studies for the Dutch government, but also for some Dutch provinces. Next slide, please. And then if you would like to, if you are interested and would like to have more information, here's the website, or you can contact me via this email address. That's it.
Thank you very much, Hetty. We are a little bit behind schedule, but I hope you will stay and listen to the presentation of the last tool, the REMES tool. So please, Paulo.
Okay, so what I present now is the REMES-EU model, which is a CG model for the European European countries, for Europe. It is a model that computes. In the next slide, we can see that it is a model that computes the future projections for what concerns major economic variables like prices, quantities, imports and exports, value added, and unemployment, given a policy. So that we have, that could be, for example, the decrease in CO2 budget. What happens in the different European countries, and similarly to what Hetty presented in her pitch, it computes the spillover effects between different countries or different sectors in this case also. The computations are made based on what is called complementarity conditions. So what it does, it ensures that supply and demand of each commodity are balanced through prices. So the prices are the devices that ensure the balancing between supply and demand, and also it ensures that every sector that doesn't have a positive profitability, so that is at loss, will not operate. And it's based on availability of resources, and their economic evaluation, which means that we will have a given amount of labor force, a given amount of capital, but also a given amount of different resources, like, for example, oil, gas, minerals. CO2 budget is another resource that can be reduced, and therefore we will have a higher price for the CO2 emissions. So and normally policies are modeled by taxes or subsidies, and by changing the availability of resources, or by changes in productivity. So yeah, in the next slide, it has been used already in others. It has been used already in the Setnav project, and the Norwegian version in a Norwegian project called Roadmap, where we, for example, have computed the impact on the GDP of in this case could be of the European countries. It was done for Norway though, for the phase out of oil and gas, and what happens when the conventional fuels are drastically reduced, while new technology, for example, has hydrogen are fostered. So what happens to the industry in terms of growth? What happens to the value added of different sectors? Implications of electricity prices, and, for example, what could be the impact on the unemployment? Yeah, that's for questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Paulo. We are behind schedule, so I will end this session now, but you have got the information of how to contact each of the modelers about their models. So if you have questions to them, please do not hesitate to contact them. So thank you all for joining this session. Thank you to the presenters, both for the first part of the session and for the modelers in the end, and for the questions raised by the audience. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.